Good afternoon, children of all ages, because, you know, the Russian poet Voznesenski said, the poet has no patronym, art is adolescence synonym. So we invite you to a celebration for National Poetry Month, but even beyond that, a celebration of all ages and all languages. We have many languages showcased as a treat to the ear and the heart. And poetry is something like a universal language, not quite as pure as music, because sometimes things are lost in translation, but it is a language of the human heart, and we're so happy that we will hear voices from many ranges and backgrounds and ages. I just want to thank the Pikes Peak Library District. Our director, Paula Miller, is with us this afternoon. Thank you so much for all the work that's done behind the scenes. We had the United States Poet Laureate for Children visiting our fair town. He had never seen Pikes Peak. That was a gift to him. And we got to hear his lovely voice. And he's the author of over 80 children's books. Well, then we want to also thank those who have worked behind the scene to make this event and celebration a success. The film people, Jamie Hastings and Sean with the PPLD, or the ASL interpreters, Ryan and Nikki, and Sue Hammond and Christine Dyer, and Nancy Maday with the Children's Department is here today. So we might as well just cut through all this necessary things, but a big thanks for what went on behind the scenes. But we're all here to hear words. So we want to get right into it. And I'm going to just start with, well, let's see, maybe, wow, here's a big voice. By the way, this is a program of the Pikes Peak Poet Laureate Project, and the PPLD, the library, is one of the partners in Poetry West, Colorado College, University of Colorado, the Gazette. So there's a lot of community shares in this program. I thought I would begin with, let's see, oh yeah, the guy that loaned me this book is right over here, Malcolm McCullum. He says, Price, take this and read it for a while and give it back to me. This is from, correct me, I don't know if I pronounce her name right, Wistawa Zimborska? Okay, close? All right. Any Polish-speaking people here want to correct me? You just raise your hand. But she's a wonderful writer. She was our poet, Nobel Poet Laureate, I believe in 97 or thereabouts. I just want to read this. Some people like poetry. Some people, that means not everyone, not even most of them, only a few, not counting school where you have to, and poets themselves. You might end up with something like 2 per 1,000. But then you can like chicken noodle soup, or compliments, or the color blue, your old scarf, your own way, petting the dog, poetry. But what is poetry anyway? More than one rickety answer has tumbled since that question was first raised. But I just keep on not knowing, and I cling to that like a redemptive handrail. Gets pretty good, doesn't it? So it's just going to get better because we have live voices right in this auditorium we're anxious to hear. Seamus Hayna, he visited our town. He was the Nobel Poet Laureate. Just to lift a few words, because this might happen to us in this audience as we hear this rainbow of verses and words. He's just said, as a big, soft buffeting come at you sideways and catch the heart off guard and blow it open. So that's the way it works. I'll say one of my own poems. It's called Catharsis, and I lift some words from Novalis. And he wrote back in the 1700s. Boy, what a pen name, Novalis. But his real name was, I believe, von Friedenberg or something like that. All right, this is Catharsis with a quote from him. Poetry heals the wounds inflicted by reason. Beauty's voice cries out in the wilderness, summoning art to clear away the scattered stones that block our way, purging frustrations, turbid emotions, taming to art tumultuous oceans, blood to ink, essence to art, clearing the stones that clutter the heart. So that's just another definition of poetry. I don't want to forget this before we launch into some of our poets. There's an open submission call. You may have read it in the Gazette or a few places. Library Out Loud. For this publication, it's a product of our community. I believe El Paso and Teller and Fremont County. So that we can get a cross-section of the vibrancy, the thriving condition of art in our community. And poetry's all over the map. There's many venues alive and well in this town. So feel free to submit, I believe, up to like 4 poems, 30 lines in length. And there's only room for this much, you know. But if we have to whittle down a stack like this, you might be in this gift to the community that'll be released next April at this event. Let's see, how we doing? Shall we just launch into some poems? Let us do that. What we're going to do is listen to some of our children first. And we're going to start with the oldest child in the room, who happens to be Lois Hayna. Now, she's only 100 years old, but like I say I'm in my 72nd year because I like to embellish. So she's in her 101st year. And what a gift she's been to our community as well as a whole poetry world. And she's going to read first. By the way, Lois is our Poet Laureate Emerita for Colorado Springs Pikes Poet Laureate Project. And then we're going to have 3 younger children than Lois. So Lois, it's our pleasure to hear your voice. If you'd like to come up here, I'll adjust the mic for you, and we'll just listen to Lois's lovely lyrics.
Is the mic good? Is the mic good? Yes. Okay. Well, being at this advanced age, I thought an appropriate poem would be Last Will and Testament. So, here we go. I am busy trying to decide which of my worldly goods should go to which of my inheritors, when an angel taps my shoulder and says, "Time to go." Almost instantly, I feel unsteady, and I begin to realize wings take a little getting used to. They are fledging very, very fast. Just before we take off, I snatch up my laptop to tuck under the fledging feathers of my left wing. I will have all those ages of time in heaven. The vistas may turn boring. I may just pull out that laptop and finish my novel. Then I snatch up a handful of CDs. Harp music is okay, though it tends to be tinkly, but played by a group of eager but amateur angels in training, it could turn slightly hellish. So I snatch up some Beethoven, some Mahler, and then I turn to my somewhat impatient angel and say, ready to go, and we're off. We do not look back.
Thank you very much. Lovely Lois. I agree with Lauren Wirbel. Recently we honored her as our centenarian, and Lauren in the open mic said his favorite poem was Not Bread Alone, but I remember it as page 55 of her book, The Mantis. And just to lift a line that I fed on, it says, never since that year of bird uncertainty have I feasted so royally. I just love that. You can chew on that for weeks. That's the way poetry is. Who was it, Mark Strand? I just ate a poem, And we feed on this. So now, let's see, Lois was our oldest a child poet so far. Now we're going to hear voices from 3 young poets, and they are going to share their beautiful words. So they might have to step up on a step stool here. That's how, I understand one of them is only 7 years old, is that right? 7? I don't know. Well, anyway, let's just, who cares about years? We want to hear their words. So we will hear from, first of all, Mina, and then Aidan, and then Seneca. So, Mina, will you step to the front and spew a poem or 2 for you? I'll get her set up here. You let me know when the microphone's. You come up there and I'll get this. Yeah, come right up here and I'll. Does that feel good to you? Yeah. Okay. Can you talk right into the microphone? Sound man? Can you hear your voice? Don't talk until I get down there. I want to hear every word.
This poem is called Sophia. All fuzzy and soft, cute and pretty. A hamster black and gray, covered with lots of fur, named Sophia. With fuzzy pink ears, always running in her ball, always warm in my hands. Sunflowers. Sunflowers shine in the sun. They grow super high up to the sky. Sunflowers sometimes smell like honey. They give nectar to butterflies, bees, and me. Their petals point out in a bright yellow circle. The long stems have white pointy spikes. When you feel them, you'll say, ow.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Now we're going to hear from Aidan. Would Aidan please come up? Yes. And I think you don't have to use this. You can just, unless you want to. Okay, shall I leave it there or not? Okay, great. He's pretty tall. He's going to be basketball player, poet.
Okay, I've got 4 short poems to say. I will be doing all 4, and one of them is called Spiders, another one is called Mountains, and the other one is called Shaved the Cat. And another one is called Disneyland. So, first we'll be going with spiders, and it says, spiders are creepy. They make me sad, even though they poison dads. They creep up the walls and crawl in your book, and then splat, spat, juice all over the cat. Okay, this is my next one. It's called Mountains. It goes, mountains are tall and they never fall, but they always stay high, up in the sky, where the planes and the hot air balloons fly. They go so high, oh so high, up in the mountain sky. Okay, my third one is called My Mother Shaved the Cat. And it goes, my mother shaved the cat, that was very fat, and he did not like it one bit, but now he looks like a lion that can fit in a place that is big or a place that is small, but now he looks like a lion, and that will be all. Okay, my fourth one is called Disneyland, and it is the longest out of all the poems that I've created today. Well, no, not today, but a while. It says, we will soon be going to Disneyland, the most wonderful place of all, and they will have the rides that will make you scream and fall. And when you are there, you will have some fun, but the most important rule is never be done. So when you leave, go outside, get something new, play with it for an hour or 2. Tell your mom and dad what fun you had, and finish the day with dreams and hopes of going there again.
Thank you. Hey, that spider poem, I hung on to I guess I was stuck in a web of Whitman. He does a poem, if you ever want to look it up, it's called The Noiseless Patient Spider. But it's so far-reaching, how it spins its webs. And that's what poetry does. And we seek truth, and we cast out those webs to catch on to a truth and anchor ourselves. Beautiful poem, beautiful recitation. And you know what's fun? Did I acknowledge our interpreters from the ASL? Yeah, well, thanks again. Yeah, it's fun to watch poems, too, and hear them. All right. Well, we need some more beautiful words, so our next poet will be Seneca. So, Seneca, we look forward to your words. Here comes Seneca. And if you feel like you want to step on the stool or not, and just adjust this to your comfort, get it close to your mouth, okay? Great.
Hi, my name is Seneca Montez de Oca, and I'm a 5th grader at Buena Vista Elementary School, and I will be reading 2 of my poems that I wrote. A bin maelstrom. This bin is tin and making a sin, clinging and clanging everywhere around. It's as if it's following me. I must put it in the pound. Bang, clang, it's here, oh no it's there, the sound's coming from everywhere. The cat is hissing, Alex Rodriguez is missing, it's a riot. It's now a storm in my dorm, correction, there's my friend Norm. He walked in the door, and boom, he's in the storm. I think it'll go all the way to the store. All it's doing is biggering and biggering, it might be our doom, once and for all. It's now 5 times the size of the biggest hurricane. Is that John Wayne? If it is, then I feel terrible. Now you can tell I'm not having a good day. And I yelp for help until I belch. Oh well, too bad for me. My next poem is called Let Me Never Become a Sword. Let me never become a sword. I start as simple molecules, then put under incredible pressure and get turned into metal. After that, get hacked into by a miner, then get put in such a high temperature that I change form. Then get beaten to death so I become stronger. Yet after that, I have to end so many lives on the battlefield, become so deadly, what a thing to yield. Splicing and slicing, never get to have a break. Uh-oh, my yielder is stuck on a stake. For me, I am forsaken, never touched, never taken, until one day I am found, getting pulled out of the ground. What a sound! Stuck in a museum, many eyes staring at me, I still remember the days of the Colosseum.
When the students are ready, the teachers arrive. You know, I always said, you know, when I grow up, I want to be like those kids. So those were wonderful, wise words and such emerging talent. While we're on the subject of the children, and I'm just going to flash back to the lovely gift we had with J. Patrick Lewis, our National Poet Laureate for Children. It was a delight to hear him speak, and if you want to look him up online, he's authored so many neat verses for children, and one I just love, Mathemagical. You know, he's got a way of reaching children like Shel Silverstein and some of those guys. Well, anyway, while we're on the children's group, yesterday, right here at 10:30, was an award ceremony, and many of us were here. Many poems were read, whole packet full, and it's the Jean Shavin Poetry Invitational Contest that's sponsored through the library system, I believe. And, well, who runs that is Nancy Maday with the Pikes Peak Library District. So let's invite Nancy to come up here and tell us a little bit about that lovely program yesterday. It's well seasoned. I won't tell you how many years because I'm not sure. It seems like it's way up there. She'll let you know.
The Jean Shavin Poetry Contest was started in 1994 when Jean Shavin, who's a local poet, author, and teacher, passed away. So the library's been sponsoring the contest for probably about 15 years after Jean's husband established a trust fund at the library. This year, the theme for the contest was Speaking Up, Standing Strong, and it's open to all 4th and 5th graders in the area. Do we have any of the winners that are here today? No? Okay. I'd love for you to hear a couple of the poems, and so Price has offered to read a few for you.
Each year there's a theme that the judges for the Jean Shavin Poetry event, they meet together and try to get a theme so that it can anchor the direction that the students will take. And boy, there was some teachers, a lot of parents, a lot of support, but it's kind of a well-kept secret. To hear those young voices and what they say. Here was one of my favorites. It's about courage by Samantha Diedrichson. I believe she was a 4th grader. Listen to this. This is really powerful. I keep tangling and tripping on spaghetti. There's a whole bowl of spaghetti wires down there. Okay, there's a poem in that, Julianza. Yes, okay. Courage by Samantha Diedrichson. The courage to seek nature is in the air. To adapt to the world is in your breath. The courage to grow is in your heart. The courage to think is in your mind. We all have courage in our blood, hope in our veins, and love running in our whole body. That's a 4th grader going on 127 or so, wouldn't you say, Lois? Very, very wise words. May I read another few of these? There. Okay. Let's see. Wow, paperwork. I'm not good at paperwork. Here's the poems. Well, let's see. This is the True Meaning of Courage by Patrice. I don't know how to say her name. Schnurley? Courage is standing strong, conquering your fears all day long, being humble and being true, not following what others do, paying attention to your inner voice, the one that tells you the right choice, telling the truth no matter what, even if your allowance might be cut. Courage is always doing your best, and it is life's biggest test. Backpacking at Sunset. This was a young man, A.J. Shields. But this is full of beautiful nature poetry. Tomorrow, I believe, isn't tomorrow Earth Day? But it fits that. You know, listen to his words. At the last pitch of the hike, I look out at the red sunset behind the mountains. A faint sound of waterfalls accompanies the chirping of birds. The green valley below tucks into the shadows. Deer settle into the marsh as a beaver hurries home for a long night's rest. That's a full circle. That's a metaphor for walking through life and having your eyes and ears open. Here's, let's see. Courage Is by Lydia Lake. Telling the bully you like her clothes. Courage is jumping off the diving board when you're afraid of heights. Courage is speaking out when your voice is shy. Courage is looking behind the door, out of your world into the real one. That's a good ending, isn't it? Powerful ending. Let's see, I wonder. Well, Lydia was either a 4th grader or 5th grader. That's close enough, isn't it? Marvelous. Want to hear another one? How are we doing? All right. Let's see. Passion, Soccer by Ashlyn Wilde. Almost sounds like Oscar Wilde. Probably a descendant. All right. Passion, Soccer. Sweat trickling down my face, gulping water down my throat, trying to get my heartbeat at a steady pace. Dribbling, get out of my way. I'm the only winner today. The soccer ball is my friend. Even though I blast it in the head, it flies through the air straight to the goal. If the goalie doesn't get it, it's more than fair. The whistle blows, the game is ended. I'm the one who knows soccer is my passion. So whether your passion is soccer or poetry, knock it through the goal lines. How are we doing? Okay, here's a longer poem, but it's a full circle poem. It just goes all the way around. Winter, Frozen Feet. Oh, wait, who's the poet here? Living Seasons by Tanya Diaz. Winter, Frozen Feet, cold and shivering in the house, no heat or flame in the fireplace, huddled together and side by side, not enough blankets for one to find. Winter, no smoke from the chimney, no wood to light, all is quiet but chattering teeth and shivering families. Winter, blizzard outside, snow blows in, pets snuggling close, keeping warm, frozen hinges on the door. Winter, the moon is gone, the sun is bright, too much snow to play today in this world of white. Winter, not much longer to the end, spring is coming, time for winter's end. Spring is here, the snow has finally gone away. Green is here today, trees grow leaves, flowers bloom, the warm spring sun is back, spring is here, color sprouts in the garden, red, blue, yellow, pink, on a green background. Spring is here. The beauty will not last forever. More seasons come than spring and winter. Spring is warm, but summer's hot. Unlike frozen winter, summer isn't full of color. Mostly gold and yellow, dry grasses and wheat, No fireworks on the 4th of July. Nothing but heat and fire until the fall at summer's end. Autumn, when leaves turn colors very bright, orange, red, yellow, brown, falling to the ground. Autumn, pretty flowers wither away, scary faces in October. Halloween comes and scares. On to winter seasons go, when feet are frozen once more. Weren't those lovely? Just a sampling of what's going on in the young minds. And, that's something to celebrate, how poetry opens up the imagination, or the imagination opens up poetry, however you do it. It gets out there into print, into hearts other than ours. So, let's see. It's time to move on in our program. We are going to enjoy oral and haptic. Well, we're going to enjoy the sound of poetry, the song in it. Many tongues of poetry. We've allotted 45 minutes to this. We were hoping to even have a very well-known Urdu voice here, but evidently he didn't make it. He's going to move. He's moving, in the process of moving with his family back to the East Coast. His name is Yusuf Zygum. I wish I would have brought his volume. I could have shown it to you. And he's trying to button up his life's work in like 9 volumes. And his first volume contained enough poetry to fill 4 or 5, didn't it? Beautiful. It's called Like of a Mirror. Beautiful words. Well, to help us through this portion, let's give our attention to someone who's worked behind the scenes to get these voices rounded up. And speaking of rounding up, we have also Poets Laureate coming on the program. Jim Ciletti is here. I'm going to read a portion from Aaron Anstead. We have Dick and Jane Morton. We could say Western poet laureates. They're going to rope us in with their words. And but right now, let's give our attention to Sue Hammond. Where'd Sue go? She was going to introduce these many voices of tongues of poetry. Sue.
Thanks, Bryce. I have the hard part is just calling the names. And then I'll step aside and you can come up. We're going to have Latin read by Julie Shavin.
Greetings, poets and poetry lovers. My name is Julianza, and I just need to make a small disclaimer that my left shoe broke. And I can neither see with my glasses nor without them at this point. So I'll do my best. There is a spaghetti thing of wires down here. Where's the sauce? When I told Sue that I would do Latin, it's not because it's part of my heritage. My heritage would be the Hebrew and Russian, but I have a lot of Latin studies. I have no connection to Latin beyond the studies. I'm not Roman Catholic. I don't know the Pope. Even my own religion won't have me. So anyway, but she said do it, and where is she? So I just figured, she was the voice of authority. This is classical versus ecclesiastical Latin, which the latter is the church Latin. This is the Latin which I studied, the non-church Latin. Noa coronas, Noa corona. Ibi habet esse melius hospitali quam hoc mundo, melior lectulis et etiam finalis cubulibus subternos, amica et albus, melior sacramenta quam degulatibiam nostri flavis demerita. Ibi apportet ad esse aliquid aliud, quam rubrica tubule et lacrimae. Meliorum murum quam valde eviglabit pompis, et eorum compositum et diebus, qui sequuntur etiatum sit melior certa dormit. Autumno novo moldo ruentes, supra convenior coronator. Aliud ab hoc, verum in hero tristitie, perforata cor novum promissis. Et aculos aspicientes in nostra intestina purerens, alicubi unus non possit velle vel amititere voluntatem beneficium qui querit hoc cidere hominem. A new coronation. There has to be a better hospital than this world. Better beds and in-beds finally sliding beneath us, white and welcoming. Better sacraments than getting our yellow jellos down. There must be something other than this rubric of tubes and tears. A better balustrade than supraconscious parades and their tin tinctures of tomorrows. Yes, surely there is a better embalming in fall. A new fall, upwards, with a kinder blue-collared coroner. Something other than this card-carrying clinic of woe, with promises like genetic hold hearts and multi-scoped eyes boring into our innards. Somewhere one cannot possibly wish to or lose the will to kill the supplicant self. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. Next we have Japanese, read by Riho Sakai.
Thank you for having me here today as a Japanese poem reader. My name is Riho Sakai, and I am a public service assistant at Okarada City Library. I came to the States from Japan 17 years ago. Today, I would like to read a few tanka from the Voices from Japan project. Tanka, which is similar to haiku, is a short poetic form, a third of 31 syllables, that is composed of 5 lines, 5-7-5-7-7 patterns, while the haiku is the poem of 3 lines in 17 syllables. And allow me to lead what the Voices from Japan project is about. Soon after the disaster of March 11, 2011, the tanka section of major Japanese newspapers are filled by an overwhelming number of submissions from readers throughout the country, especially from the affected areas of Iwate, Miyagi, and Fukushima prefectures. The painfully moving poems of common people inspired this project, Voices from Japan, to try to understand why and how the people wrote such powerful poems during the disaster. 100 poems has been selected and translated into English. Tanka form has a long history and tradition of poems of love, loss, and grief. So it was used by the victims and people in Japan to express their deepest emotions at their difficult time. And there's a few tanka from this project. 号泣して元の形に戻るなら、眼潰れるまでを泣きます。If my wailing could return everything to what it once was, I would weep until my eyes were swollen shut. 3月の10日の新聞手に取れば、切なきまでに震災前なり。Picking up a newspaper dated the 10th of March, heartbreaking that it was before the great earthquake. 父母の名をかざし一人で避難所を回るおの子は9歳という。 A boy circling around the evacuation center, holding up his mother's and his father's names, is about 9 years old. ふるさとは無音無人の町になり、地の果てのごとく遠くなりたり。My home place has become a town without voices, without humans. It is as distant as the end of earth. 救援の車列に涙こみ上げて、合唱すれば敬礼帰る。When the rescue vehicles file by with tears brimming, I play with palms together. He salutes in return. 精霊は月に宿りて松に降る。筑前高田秋巡り来て。The souls of the dead sheltering in the moon descend to the lone pine in Rikuzen Takata. Autumn comes around again. 我が借家、これほど客を迎えしは初めてのこと、家族のごとし。The first time for me to receive so many guests at my temporary dwelling like family. Thank you.
Sandy Fledderjohann will read in Italian.
I'm going to read a poem by a gentleman called Aldo Palazzeschi. He was born in Florence in 1895, and he died in Rome in 1974 at the age of 89. So he had quite a lengthy career, and his work was a great influence, at least on Italian literature and poetry. The poem, I'm not going to translate it, but I'm hoping with these props you will understand what the poet is saying. The poem is called Sun, and it's about traveling through several Mediterranean countries under different colored umbrellas. I have a helper today, so you can start. Hold it up, hold it over your head. Back, back, back. Oh. Okay. Vorrei girar la Spagna sotto un ombrello rosso. Vorrei girar l'Italia sotto un ombrello verde. Con una barchettina sotto un ombrello azzurro vorrei passare il mare. Giungere al Partenone sotto un ombrello rosa, cadente di viole. Thank you.
Next we have Christiane Grimes reading in German.
I also did not translate my poem because it's from Johann von Goethe out of Faust. It's called Easter Walk. Osterspaziergang. Vom Eise befreit sind Strom und Bäche, durch des Frühlings holden, belebenden Blick. Im Tale grünet Hoffnungsglück, Der alte Winter in seiner Schwäche zog sich in raue Berge zurück. Von dorther sendet er, fliehend nur ohnmächtige Schauer, Königin Eises in Streifen über die grünende Flur. Aber die Sonne duldet kein Weißes, überall regt sich Bildung und Streben, alles will sie mit Farbe beleben. Doch an Blumen fehlt's im Revier, sie nimmt geputzte Menschen dafür. Kehre dich um von diesen Höhen, nach der Stadt zurückzusehen. Aus dem hohlen, finstern Tor bringt ein buntes Gewimmel hervor. Jeder sonnt sich heut so gern, sie feiern die Auferstehung des Herrn, denn sie sind selber auferstanden, aus niedriger Häuser, dümpfen Gemächern, aus Handwerks- und Gewerbesbanden. Aus dem Druck von Giebeln und Dächern, aus den Straßen quetschender Enge, aus der Kirche ehrwürdiger Nacht sind sie alle ans Licht gebracht. Sieh nur, sieh, wie behend sich die Menge durch die Gärten und Felder schlägt. Wie der Fluss in Breit und Länge so manchen lustigen Narren bewegt. Und bis zum Sinken überladen entfernt sich dieser letzte Kahn. Selbst von dem Berges fernen Pfaden blinken uns farbige Kleider an. Ich höre schon des Dorfs Getümmel, hier ist des Volkes wahrer Himmel. Zufrieden, jauchzart, groß und klein, hier bin ich Mensch, hier darf ich sein. Thank you.
Raluca Olariu will read in Romanian.
And I'll ask Christiane to translate the poem because I'll be happy if everyone will understand it. So the poem is by Tudor Arghezi. It's a poem for children, and I'll start it. L-ați văzut cumva pe zdreanță cel cu ochii de faianță? E un câine zdreanțăros de flocos, dar e frumos. Parcă-i strâns din petice, ca să-l tot împiedice. Ferfenițele îi atârnă și pe ochi, pe nara cârnă, și se încurcă și descurcă, parcă-i scos din călți pe furcă. Are însă o ureche de pungaș fără pereche. Dă târcoale la coteț, ciufulit și așa lăieț, așteptând un ceas și două găinăse ouă, care cântă cotcodace, proaspăt oul când îl face. De când e în gospodărie, multe a învățat și știe, și pe brânci, târâș, grăbiș, se strecoară pe furiș. Pune laba, ia cu botul și înghite oul cu totul. Unde-i oul? Întreba gospodina. L-a mâncat. Stai nițel că te dezvăț, fără mătură și băț. Te învață mama minte. Și i-a dat un ou fierbinte. Dar de cum l-a îmbucat, streanță l-a și lepădat și-a înjurat cu un lătrat. Când se uită la găină cu culcușul lui vecină, zice zdreanță gândul lui, s-a făcut a dracului. And now, Christiane, please translate it.
All right. Rag by Tudor Arghezi. Did you happen to see Rag, china eyes under all that shag? He's a dog with ragged fur, very handsome as it were. Looks like he has patched together ragged tatter over tatter. Shreds of fur over his eyes put his nose into disguise. He's all tangled as a fool, like he's freshly spun from wool. But amazingly, this slobber is a cunning, practiced robber. Loiters by the chicken coop with his scruffy, furry droop, waiting calmly for a hen to lay eggs for him again, clucking happily as she makes a fresh egg instantly. Since he's been in this household, he's learnt a lot, I'm told. And he crawls at steady pace, slinks toward that hidden place, paw and muzzle through the hole, and he swallows the egg whole. Where's the egg? Asked then the lady of the house. It's gone. He ate it. Wait a minute. I'll unlearn you of this rotten habit too. I will teach you not to steal. So a hot egg was his meal. But as soon as Rag chowed down, he dropped it quickly with a frown and swore with a big bow wow. When he looks now at the pen, next door neighbor in her pen, mutters Rag begrudgingly, Damn, she's trickier than me.
Christophe Brissonneau will read in French.
Hi, I am Christophe Brissonneau from France. Maybe you recognize my accent. I don't speak very good English, but my French is better. I am a French Fulbright scholar in UCCS. So I decided to present you a poem of Charles Baudelaire. He's a very famous French poetry. He wrote a book, a very famous book on poems, The Bad Flowers, and I decided to present you Hymne à la beauté, Hymn to the beauty of the woman. Viens-tu du ciel profond ou sors-tu de l'abîme, ô beauté? Ton regard infernal et divin verse confusément le bienfait et le crime, et l'on peut pour cela t'en comparer au vin. Tu contiens dans ton œil le couchant et l'aurore, tu répands des parfums comme un soir orageux. Tes baisers sont un filtre et ta bouche une amphore, qui font le héros lâche et l'enfant courageux. Sors-tu du gouffre noir ou descends-tu des astres? Le destin charmé suit tes jupons comme un chien. Tu sèmes au hasard la joie et les désastres, et tu gouvernes tout et ne réponds de rien. Tu marches sur des morts, beauté dont tu te moques, de tes bijoux, l'horreur n'est pas le moins charmant, et le meurtre, parmi les plus chères breloques, sur ton ventre orgueilleux, danse amoureusement. L'éphémère ébloui vole vers toi, chandelle, crépite, flambe et dit, bénissons ce flambeau. L'amoureux pantelant incliné sur sa belle a l'air d'un moribond caressant son tombeau. Que tu viennes du ciel ou de l'enfer, qu'importe. Ô beauté, monstre énorme, effrayant, ingénu, si ton œil, ton souris, ton pied m'ouvrent la porte d'un infini que j'aime et je n'ai jamais connu. De Satan ou de Dieu, qu'importe, ange ou sirène, qu'importe si tu rends, fait aux yeux de velours, rythme, parfum, lueur, ô mon unique reine, l'univers moins hideux et les instants moins lourds. Thank you.
Julianza is going to read in Hebrew.
Hi, I feel I'd be remiss if I didn't make the dedication I meant to make before. First of all, the first poem I did not credit. That was one of mine. Maybe you could tell. But I wanted to dedicate these poems today to three people. One is my friend Jerry Fields, who died a year ago last Saturday on my birthday. It was a Friday the 13th, and who always encouraged me in my poetry. Also to Harry, who's kept me alive long enough to annoy you this long. And also, to my father, who was a writer. And this is his 25th yahrzeit, 25th anniversary of his passing, February the 18th. I'll be in Georgia in June doing a memorial service with my family. So, okay. Mitzrayim b'Polanya. Hayenu Mitzrayim b'Polanya. Levavot levanim haor histater. Mag'il v'hashuch. Hatanorim sarfu otanu ad shechafa chinu nakim. Hatanurim sarfu avtanu ad shina asinu nakim. Aval hacheder harishon malay gaz, hayinu mevohalim v'karim, v'nasim noas lishom, mevohalim v'karim. Dotafim et hayeladim, gan eden, lo tekira, menosim lihipoter, mecha avir shechaya ra'e, dochaf et yeladim az kulam, hitmot, tu kol hahit pashtut, hachutza mishpachot shivurot. Ya sher kamo salve keres. So this is one of mine. I thought they had to be original, but anyway, lepers of Poland. We were the lepers of Poland, pearl skin hiding hearts, squalid and dark. The ovens charred us clean. The ovens charred us clean, but first the chambers, frantic, freezing, flailing after breathing. Frantic, freezing, thrusting children up as though to heaven, not a ceiling. Alien air heaving, thrusting children up, then collapsed, sprawled, extinguished families of night, sleeping swastikas all. Thank you.
Harold Isaac Katz will read Yiddish.
Hello. Yiddish was a universal language employed by Jews throughout Eastern Europe and the eastern parts of Western Europe. It's based on Middle High German, which is the German that was spoken around the 10th century when Jews first entered the Rhineland. It includes these German words plus Hebrew, Aramaic, and some Slavic words. Some Latin words are also thrown in just for good measure. The poem I'm going to do was actually turned into a song. It was written by Morris Rosenfeld. He was born in 1862 in Poland, died in 1923 in America. He was born with the name Moses Jacob Alter, which in Hebrew would be Moshe Yaakov Alter. And in Yiddish it would be pronounced Moishe Yankov Alter. He has the distinction of being the first Yiddish poet to have been translated into English, which was in 1899. His Liederbuch was translated by Leo Wiener of Harvard, a philologist, under the title Songs from the Ghetto. As many Jewish immigrants from Eastern Europe, he came to America seeking the better life and ended up in a sweatshop, working at sewing machines for hours at a time, days at a time, and spent most of his poems are about the sadness, the trials of working in a sweatshop. The song I'm going to do is called Mein Ruheplatz. It means my resting place. And the translation goes something like this. Seek me not where myrtles are blooming. You will find me, there you will find me not, my dear. Where lives are withering away at machines, there is my resting place. Seek me not where birds are singing. There you will find me not, my dear. I am a slave where chains are clanging. There is my resting place. Seek me not where fountains are spraying. There you will find me not, my dear. where tears run and teeth are grinding, there is my resting place. And if you love me with a true love, then come to me, my dear, and cheer up my gloomy heart and make it sweet, my resting place.
Gewinnst mir dort nicht, mein Schatz. Wie Lebensvölken bei Maschinen dort nicht, mein Ruheplatz. Dorten ist mein Ruheplatz. Sieht mir nicht wie die Vögel singen. Du findest mir dorten nicht, mein Schatz. Ich schlaf bin wie Kiten klingen. Dorten ist mein Ruheplatz. Dorten ist mein Ruheplatz. Mich sieht mir wie Fontanen spritzen. Du findest mir dort nicht, mein Schatz. Wie Tränen seiner Kritzen dort ist mein Ruheplatz. Dort ist mein Ruheplatz. Und liebst du mich mit wahrer Liebe? Du kommst zu mir, mein Gitterschatz, und heiter reif mein Herz das Triebe und mach mir süß mein Ruheplatz und mach mir süß mein Ruheplatz.
Aisha Su, who's going to read Chinese.
Excuse me, I cannot translate the Chinese English. I come here just 6 months. 再别康桥，轻轻地我走了，正如我轻轻地来，我轻轻地招手，作别西天的云彩。那河畔的金柳，是夕阳中的新娘，波光里的艳影，在我心头荡漾。那软泥上的青荇，油油地在水底招摇。在康河的柔波里，我甘心做一条水草。那云下的一潭，不是清泉，是天上虹，揉碎在浮藻间，沉淀着彩虹似的梦。寻梦，乘一只长篙，向青草更清楚漫溯，满载一船星辉，在星辉斑斓里放歌。但我不能放歌，悄悄是离别的笙箫，夏虫也为我沉默，沉默是今晚的康桥。悄悄的我走了，正如我悄悄的来，我挥挥衣袖，不带走一片云彩。悄悄的我走了，正如我悄悄的来，我挥挥衣袖，不带走一片云彩。Thanks for listening.
Dennis Daly will read Spanish.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to read a poem originally composed in the Nahuatl language of central Mexico. It's attributed to a person named Nezahualcóyotl, who was the great ruler of the city-state of Texcoco. He lived from 1402 to 1472 and composed this in the middle 15th century, a couple of generations before the arrival of the Spanish in the New World. And I'm going to attempt to read just the first portion in Nahuatl, which is not a language that I know. And then I'll read a 16th century Spanish translation and then modern English translation. Chopin Cuicatl. Amoxcalco pehuacuica, yeyecowa, yewaya, cuimowaya, xochitl, and oia cuicatl. That's my attempt there. It's Canto de Primavera. En la casa de las pinturas comienza a cantar, ensaya el canto, derrama flores, alegra el canto. Resuena el canto, los cascabeles se hacen oír, a ellos responden nuestras sonajas floridas. Derrama flores, alegra el canto. Sobre las flores canta el hermoso faisán, su canto despliega en el interior de las aguas. A él responden varios pájaros rojos. El hermoso pájaro rojo bellamente canta. Libro de pinturas es tu corazón. Has venido a cantar. Haces resonar tus tambores. Tú eres el cantor. En el interior de la casa de la primavera alegres a las gentes. Tú solo repartes flores que embriagan, flores preciosas. Tú eres el cantor. En el interior de la casa de la primavera alegras a las gentes. And in English, it's the Song of Springtime. In the house of paintings, the singing begins. Song is practiced. Flowers are spread. The song rejoices. The song resounds. Little bells are heard. To these answer our flowery timbrels. Flowers are spread, the song rejoices. Above the flowers is singing the radiant pheasant. His song unfolds into the midst of the waters. To him reply all manner of red birds. The dazzling red bird beautifully sings. Your heart is a book of paintings. You have come to sing, to make your dreams resound. You are the singer. Within the house of springtime, you make the people happy. You alone bestow flowers that intoxicate, precious flowers. You are the singer. Within the house of springtime, you make the people happy. Thank you.
We have Julie again, and this time in Russian.
No? Good. I don't remember much of what my grandparents said to me. They were immigrants. They were emigres from Russia to escape religious persecution. It's a long time ago. And this is the one I'm going to do that's not mine. This is called The Muse. It's a very short poem called The Muse, a famous poem, apparently, by Anna Akhmatova. It goes sort of like this, and this is, I believe this is a very old-fashioned and heavily Ukrainian accent on this one. Muza. Когда я ношу зу ее прихода. Ризен кахеца висит на волеске. Что похетиш, что юность, что свобода. Пред мили гость есть дохкой в руке. И вот вошла, откинув покрывала, внимательно взглянула на меня. Ей говорю, ты данту диктовала страницы ада от вехи ехиде я. The Russian is 8 lines, the English is just 4. So they wouldn't want me in Russia. The Muse by Anna Akhmatova. When in the night I await her coming, my life seems stopped. I ask myself, what are tributes, freedom, or youth compared to this treasured friend holding a flute?
Rosie Courtney. Rosie will read in Spanish.
Buenas tardes a todos. Esto es en español. Good afternoon, everyone. My poem is from Miguel Hernández. He is from Spain, and he was a wonderful poetry. But this man never go to school and for to be a poetry. It's the films, because he is a wonderful man and he lives in difficult times. General Franco in Spain was very, very hard, and this is the time for Miguel Hernández. And he was in jail, and he wrote this poem. The poem is El Último Rincón. El último y el primero, rincón para el sol más grande, universo de esta vida donde tus ojos no caben. Allí quisiera tenderme para enamorarme. Por el olivo lo quiero, lo persigo por la calle, se sume por los rincones donde se sumen los árboles. Se ahonda y hace más honda la intensidad de mi sangre. Los olivos moribundos florecen en todo el aire y los muchachos se quedan cercanos y agonizantes. Carne de mi movimiento, huesos de ritmos mortales, me muero por respirar sobre tus ademanes. Corazón que entre dos piedras ansiosas de machacarte, de tanto querer te ahogas como un mar entre dos mares. De tanto querer me ahogo y no me es posible ahogarme. Besos que vienen rodando desde el principio del mundo, a mi boca por tus labios, beso que va aún por venir, boca como un doble astro, que entre los astros palpita por tantos besos parados, por tantas bocas cerradas, sin un beso solitario. ¿Qué hice para que me pusieran a mi vida tanta cárcel? Tu pelo donde lo negro ha sufrido las edades, de la negrura más firme y la más emocionante. Tu secular pelo negro, recorro hasta remontarme a la negrura primera de tus ojos y tus padres, al rincón de pelo denso donde relampagueaste. Como un rincón solitario, allí el hombre brota y arde. ¡Ay, el rincón de tu vientre! El callejón de tu carne, el callejón sin salida, donde agonicé una tarde. La pólvora y el amor marchan sobre las ciudades, deslumbrando, removiendo la población de la sangre. El naranjo sabe a vida y el olivo a tiempo sabe, y entre el clamor de los dos, mis pasiones se debaten. El último y el primero, rincón donde algún humano siente el arrullo del mundo de los amorosos cauces. Siesta que ha entenebrecido el sol de las humedades, allí quisiera tenderme para enamorarme. Después del amor, la tierra, después de la tierra, nadie. This poem is spoke about Miguel Hernandez in the jail, and later he died because he was very sick. And in this time, no help for nothing. Thank you so much.
Drew Hart. Drew, are you here? You want to read to us in Latvian?
All right. I know I was driving here, and I remember as a kid I would have to always stand outside where the median, there's a little fountain. It's a Latvian freedom fountain, and it kind of reminded me of that. It was awkward as hell. That's what my memory tells me. Here's a little poem by Vilis Plūdons. He was a poet laureate of Latvia, and also my great-great-grandfather. And it's more of a lullaby. It is a lullaby. And this is This is Lauku Māmiņas Āju dziesmiņa, which is the field mother's little lullaby. Bērniņ, laikšaut tu sēdiet, circenītis kaktā dzied, kūtī govis kumeliņi, aitas jēri siveniņi. Visi zin, kā vakars klāt, jāiet kājas pūtināt. Neraud, bērniņ mans, paliec klus, aiztaisi gordiņos lodziņus. Balts mākonīts atlīgos miedziņu, kā lēni kritošu sniedziņu, viegli vieglītiņām, klusu klusītiņām, klas par tev autu zibošam dzītiņām, dusi nu bērniņ līdz rītiņām. So here's kind of like an unpoetic, bare-bones translation. A lot is lost in that and picks up a lot of credit on the way. Kiddo, time to go to sleep. The kids singing, the cricket singing in the corner, the cows, horses, sheep, lambs, piglets are in the byre. All know that evening's here. Must go put our feet up. Don't cry, my kiddo. Be quiet. Close your weary windows. A little white cloud will sway to you sleep, lightly, gently, quiet, so quietly, as slowly fallen snow. It'll cover you with a blanket for the pursuing gloam. Sleep now, kiddo, till morning.
Our final language is one that we often hear nowadays, and thanks to Julie, she's going to do teen speak.
Yeah, I thought there might be a lot of teenagers here today. I have a teenager. I have a 26-year-old, 21, and then a teen who's 14. And so, you know, she's on Facebook too much. She does spend a lot of time writing and reading. But I know what she does, and you know, these symbols, to me, they're a language of themselves. Sue has been such a good sport. I mentioned this, and she was like, yeah, do that one. So I'm going to try to do this one, okay? This is a poem for my daughter on my birthday. And do it this way. That's how I practiced it. Here we go. A-D-N, E-D-N, T-I-M-E, such R-A-K, letter U, number 2, M. I-D-K-I-R-C, what I've done to merit this. Sometimes R-O-T-F-L-B-C. You asked, what is an imbecile? Parentheses greater than 3, close parentheses. Or letter Y, do P-P-L, say mispronunciation. B-T-W, it's GR number 8 when you are A-F-K. And with me instead, never the S-S-D-D. O-M-G, not. Like letter U, R, cray-cray. F-W-T-W, U letter R, my B-F-F. H-A-N-D, E-S-O, GR number 8, S, day, subtract 4, capital F, T-Y-F-B-Y, like. H-A-K-L-Y-M, M, translation. Any day now, every day now, tears in my eyes over such random acts of kindness from you to me. I don't know if I remember correctly what I've done to merit this. Sometimes I'm rolling on the floor laughing because you asked, what's an imbecile? Heart, love you. Or, why do people say mispronunciation? By the way, it's great when you are away from keyboard and with me instead. Never the same stuff, different day. Oh my God, no. Like it that you're crazy. For what it's worth, you are my best friend forever. Have a nice day. Every single one. Greatest day ever. Thank you for being you. Hugs and kisses. Love you most. Mommy.
I'm practicing to learn how to do email and answer the smartphone. That's way out there. Okay. Well, I want you to know, when I was right down here at Ivy Wells School, or Lowell School down the street, in 6th grade, we did Tutnik. Like if you wanted to say, what time is it? You'd spell it, like, Wakashe tut tarai mami, I tut. So that was some kind of teen speak back then. But poetry is just so engaging on all levels. I wanted to let you know just a preview of what's happening. We're going to have the poet, we wanted to have two poet laureates emeritus, Aaron Anstett and Jim Ciletti, but Aaron's not here, so I'm going to read one of my favorite poems of his. And then we're going to hear from Dick and Jane Morton, the Western genre of poetry, and then Lauren Wirbel is going to tell us about Poetry West, and Susan Peiffer, she's this year's Pikes Peak Art Council selection for performance poetry. By the way, McCullum then will bring us into the intermission. I'm going to do a short thing on Native American poetry. We were hoping to find someone to speak in Lakota or something like that, but didn't. And then Malcolm McCullum, he was, 2004 Pikes Peak Art Council performance poet. He's going to do music and poetry. And then in intermission, I want to announce that we hope to have a lot of time for an open mic. If you haven't signed up, there's a sign-up sheet, and we'll just bring it home. We're going to have an intermission, too. So without further ado, hey, how much time do we got? I want to do a translation thing. Oh, I could look at the clock real quick. Early English to later English, Chaucer. I had to learn this in high school, and it made me fall in love with the music of poetry in my head. That's part of the reason I like poetry now. This is Chaucer, Prologue to the Canterbury Tale. How many here had to memorize that Old English? Well, not up really with the sure sota, the drata marchet bursted to the rota, and bothered every vein and swish liqueur, of which virtue engendered is the fleur. Basically, we're saying April flowers bring May flowers, and then the birds chirping in the spring, and everybody gets a cabin fever in the winter, and everybody wants to go on a pilgrimage or a trip, and it launches into camping in summer season. And then that set the stage for the Canterbury Tales and all these intermingling lives and tales through poetry. Well, let's get right into our poet laureate. If you don't mind, could someone bring me a sustenance, that booklet there? Save me a step or two. I'm going to read a poem from Aaron Anstett. He was our inaugural poet laureate. I just love this poem. It's so Aaronish. Sustenance, that's the title of this publication from years ago. He's been written a few others since then. I want to be pulled down the street by thousands of finches, each with the twine leash, nothing fancy, 1 block only, through the brazen afternoon. Hopping and walking, they'll haul me easily. I'm a thin man who will whoop on his toy sled, pitching bread scraps ahead of them, their skinny legs a blur. True to my word, a halt at the corner, unbridle each bird, and each will fly off with his own string, my blessing on their nest. I've half a mind to weigh so little, I balance in one hand. My grandfathers say, suddenly alive again. I want to feel so good, it's a faith I take with me like food or money. A sound I can count on, keen as metal runners rasping asphalt. A prayer, I say, and the birds return. That was from Aaron Anstett's Sustenance. Now, we're happy to introduce our Poet Laureate Emeritus, Jim Ciletti. Let's give him our applause.
Thank you, Price, and thank you, Sue, for
putting this all together for us, a yeoman's job. Thank you very, very much. Going to start with a thought that I ask you a question. How many things have you used today? How many things have you used? You got up, you brushed your teeth, you used a faucet handle. I went into the kitchen, I got a paper filter, I put it in the coffee maker, I got coffee beans, I put it in a coffee grinder, I ground the coffee, I used a water tap to put water in that, I got out a griddle, I got out a bowl, I put Krusty's pancake mix in it, I got out a bottle with vanilla in it, etc. And I share this with you because I want to read to you one of my favorite poets, Neruda, his poem on an ode to things. I'm going to read it in English, but one can say as we go through this list of things, where's the poetry in the poetry? The poetry in this poem is what goes on in your imagination when an item is mentioned and what you can do with that, okay? I mean, where would I be without a pair of pliers and a screwdriver in this world? And so they're not necessarily considered poetic objects, but to me they are. Ode to things. And Rosie, if we had had time, you could be reading the Spanish and I would read the English. Ode to things. I have a crazy love of things. I like pliers and scissors. I love cups and rings and bowls, not to speak, of course, of hats. I love all things, not just the grandest, also the infinitely small thimbles, spurs, plates, and flower vases. Oh, yes, the planet is sublime. It's full of pipes, weaving, handheld through tobacco smoke, and keys and salt shakers, everything, I mean, that is made by the hand of man, every little thing, shapely shoes and fabric, and each new bloodless birth of gold, eyeglasses, carpenter's nails, brushes, clocks, compasses, coins, and the so softness of chairs. Mankind has built so many perfect things, built them of wool and of wood, of glass and of rope, remarkable tables, ships, and stairways. I love all things not because they are passionate or sweet-smelling, but because, I don't know, because this ocean is yours and mine. These buttons and wheels and little forgotten treasures, fans upon whose feathers love has scattered in blossoms, glasses, knives, and scissors, all bear the trace of someone's fingers or their handle or surface, the trace of a distant hand lost in the depths of forgetfulness. I pause in houses, streets, and elevators, touching things, identifying objects that I secretly covet. This one because it rings, that one because it is soft, as the softness of a woman's hip, and that one there for its deep sea color, and that one for its velvet feel. Oh, irrevocable river of things, no one can say that I loved only fish, or the plants of the jungle in the field, that I loved only those things that leap and climb and desire and survive. It's not true. Many things conspired to tell me the whole story. Not only did they touch me, or my hand touched them, they were so close that they were a part of my being. They were so alive with me that they lived half my life and will die half of my death. I love things. Thank you. Thank you, Pablo Neruda. Because we think our computer is high technology, go out and try to make your own pair of pliers. Redeeming snowflakes. One day, Several years ago, it was about this time of year, we got what I call an onion snow. An onion snow for two reasons. The flakes came down as big as slices of onions, and because that was about the time of the year when we planted onions. And my mind did a flashback to when I was 6 years old, kneeling in front of Father Sabora, about to receive my first Holy Communion, which was in itself a flake of snow. And so this whole thing about, well, redeeming snowflakes. I am the one who kneels here in this first Holy Communion white coat, the one pressing together my hands, angel wingtips, fingertip to fingertip. I smell the ozone of incense and fear to look up until I hear the shifting vestments. And at the last second, I am the one who tilts back his head, eyes to heaven, heart pounding, and sticks out his tongue to communicate with falling wafers of pure snow. I am the shivering one listening to satanic winds demanding, yes, 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 and my guardian angel commanding, no, no, no. Yes, now on this winter day, I am the one here. I am the one mouthing melted redemption, snowflakes whitening my face, knees bleeding in the snow. Everything I share today is going to be part of my cultural heritage. The only thing that would have made today better would have been if everyone had been in costume for their native country, and we had a buffet back there with the food from every country that everybody, well, Italians going to immediately think of how can we make this foodie. But to me, it's just a delight to think of part of the mantra of our country, e pluribus unum, is it not? E pluribus unum, out of many, one. And out of many voices and many tongues and many people, we are one country. When I drive home, I go past houses and I say, oh, I wonder if somebody's making pierogi in there. Is somebody flattening tortillas in there? Anybody making meatballs over there? Because I know that we're not all white bread Americans. We all have a love for our culture as well as being in this great country, okay? This next one goes to my Uncle Joe. I like to write about things that were special to my ancestors and my uncles that were very, very simple. And I've combined part of my Catholic heritage within the poem. Uncle Joe's onions. Right after Mass and Communion on St. Patrick's Day, with big snowflakes fluttering down on him, Uncle Joe's foot and spade were turning over his garden. With a sharp stick, he furrowed long rows of black earth, then drilled hole after hole and planted and covered white onion bulbs. When the rains kept him in, he pulled back the curtain, and in his mind's eye, I'm sure he saw the long white fingers of onions growing deep in the dark earth. By late April, he knelt on one knee and tugged weeds from between new green onion stalks. In early May, knowing the work of sun and rain, knowing as only Uncle Joe could know, he dug his shovel deep into the earth to turn out a dozen onions. First holding them up to the sun, then tapping off the dirt, pulling out the first outer skin, cutting off the hairy roots, and at the spigot washing the onions and his hands in cold water. Up in the kitchen, he shook salt over an onion, bit, then chewed, and closed his eyes. Smiling, he remembered the snowflakes and received communion again. Thank you. The next one is called Grandmother's Bread Song, and it's a pantoum. A pantoum is a form of a poem in which the second line flows into the next stanza. And you'll hear a repetition, but I didn't, you're supposed to follow the line exactly, but I changed it. For instance, in the fourth stanza, grandfather soaks the crusty bread in olive oil. Well, you're supposed to start the next stanza with that line. Instead, I start with grandmother soaks her bread in pasta sauce. So instead of following that line exactly, I added to it. And this won first prize in the Colorado Poetry Society, something or other, some time ago. Grandmother's Bread Song. And I would love it the most if when I share my poems, you think of your grandmother or grandfather or someone that you love dearly, because my words are not important unless they transport you to the poetry in your life. On a hill in Italy, grandmother hums to herself. Making bread, her memories rise in kneaded dough. The high-pitched voice of a boy calls, "Nonna, grandmother, let me help you." And I look into her eyes. Her dreams rise in the kneaded dough, and I ask to help her carry the loaves to the village oven, where I look into grandmother's eyes and I see the loaves baking golden brown. My belly smiles. I help her carry the loaves from the village oven, and we fold our hands to sit for grace. I search grandfather's lips to learn his prayers, while the wine we'll sip shines purple in our glasses. We fold our hands to say our grace. Then grandfather soaks the crusty bread in olive oil. Meatballs steam, the cheese melts, our faces smile. In the season we sip glows in the purple wine. Grandmother soaks her bread in pasta sauce. I wipe my plate clean. Evening bells toll, and the season we sip twinkles in the twilight. As grandmother washes our dishes, she sings to me. I wipe my eyes. The dreaming bells fall into the sleepy evening. I wipe my eyes, and the dreaming bells fall into the sleepy evening. Grandfather corks the wine. Grandmother washes my face and sings to me. My dreams rising in her voice, rising in my heart. Thank you. One more. Sunday. What was Sunday without Sunday dinner? Whether we were at Uncle Lou's or my house or up at Uncle Dom's, Sunday dinner was a sacred event in our family. Everything was closed on Sunday. There was no 24/7. There was no 7-Eleven. There was nothing open in Washington, Pennsylvania on Sunday except the church stores and your home. And that was a really great special time. And so I wrote this poem to commemorate that. It's called Sunday Dinner, 1956. I'll try to get through this without choking up, but these things are very important to me. Because what do we have but our DNA and the genetics and our language and our culture that our families have handed down to us? Sunday dinner, 1956. Uncle Jimmy's here for Sunday dinner. He says the coal miners of western Pennsylvania are tunneling right now under our house. Right now. So I tilt my head like a robin and listen, hoping to hear the tap-tapping, the chink-chinking of the Italian and Polish miners' picks. Mama, tipping lids of steaming pots, wipes her sweaty forehead with her arm, won't let us help in the kitchen. In the dining room, I set out dishes printed with a yellow rose, thump, 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 thump. Following me, my little sister in a small apron sets out spoons, clink, 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 clink. My brother Lenny hauls up the wine jug from Papa's fruit cellar. My brother Mike hand tests his flat top haircut. As soon as we sit around the oval table, Papa pours small sips of wine into our glasses, but fills his and Mama's and Uncle Jimmy's. Papa said Grandpa Ciletti on his first job in America worked up to his ankles in water in the mines. Now the arthritis grinds in his knees. Papa showed me Grandpa's rusty lunch bucket, then that creaked when he opened it. Uncle Jimmy tousles my hair, then smiles like the banana split in the ice cream poster in Uncle Dom's drugstore. Uncle Jimmy crunches celery dipped in salty, peppered olive oil. He winks at me and points downward, earthward, to remind me of the miners. If I tap my foot on the rug in a little beating rhythm, will the black-faced miners hear me? Will they look up with a worry to the dark sounds? Papa in white shirt and suspenders tells us to bow our heads for grace, always the same, bless us, O Lord. And with my fingers folded, touching perfectly tip to tip, surely Jesus is watching me and blessing us and the Italian miners. We pull apart garlic bread and silver foil, the air sweet with the steaming slices. Papa said Grandpa had to eat potato peelings. Sweet black olives roll across my plate. My brother Mike kicks me under the table, but we hold back our giggles. Mama sets down spaghetti crowned with meatballs and a large platter of my favorite oregano roasted chicken, just like Grandma Pasqualina's. Glass to glass, we toast wine, then twirl spaghetti onto our forks. Papa samples a meatball and smiles at Mother, then sprinkles a snowfall of cheese over his pasta. Uncle Jimmy, napkin under his chin, pinches bread in his hand and winks again at me. Face to face at table, the silence in eating, while as we eat, right below us, western Pennsylvania, Italian coal miners tap the roof of a seam of coal. Waiting for biscotti and peaches, I think of the Italian coal miners and hope they get to go home for Sunday dinner. Thank you. And I close with one final poem. It's called The Millionaire's Delight. And this came about the other day from when I was in the garden. Millionaire's Delight. Yesterday, had I been a millionaire and able to hire a gardener or two, I still would have knelt in the earth and brushed back the crunchy leaves to see and touch, 2-inch green shoots of garlic. I would have pruned the scratchy rose bushes and sucked blood from my thorn-stabbed thumb. I would have cut back the lower aspen branches, and I would have plucked up the withered dead tomato and pepper plants and snapped off the hollyhock stalks. The earth under my fingernails, curved sliver of the silver moon. Thank you very much. Enjoy.
Thank you very much, Jim. And our American Sign Language interpreters have to leave at 3:30, so we want to give a big round of applause for Ryan and Nikki. How do you say thank you? Yeah. I used to know how to do I love you or something, those. Well, anyway, thank you so much. We loved seeing the poetry. And then, wow, do you ever feel like you almost sated with a buffet of tastes? So we've still got more. Take some samplers and so forth. We're going to change it. No, let's see. The next program is going to be these folks, Dick and Jane Morton. I first heard them in Out of the Ashes, right down here in the garden, and they really helped us heal and tell us how the cows came home to Flying W Ranch. But Jane is an award-winning writer. She's won the Will Rogers Medallion Awards and wonderful voices in the Western genre of cowboy poetry. Would you all cowboy up to the rostrum next? Thank you. We're waiting for your voices.
We sometimes have an argument who goes first. I usually lose. I don't know how much, if I really need this mic, I presume people can hear in the back. As noted in the program, this is Cowboy Poetry, or as Poetry Month, National Poetry Month. This week also is National Cowboy Poetry Week, and Governor Hickenlooper has a proclamation out regarding that, as well as several other Western state governors. So we're really proud of the cowboy poetry movement. From his book, Ramsey wrote his book titled Grass. He wrote a poem about the land. And in the morning, I was riding out through the breaks of that long plain, and leather creaking in the quieting would sound, would trot and trot again. I lived in time with horse hoof falling. I listened well and heard the calling. The earth, my mother, bade to me, though I would still ride, wild and free. And as I flew out in the morning, before the birds, before the dawn, I was the poem, I was the song. My heart would beat the world a warning. Those horsemen now all rode with me, and we were good, and we were free. We did not know, but ours the knowing. We were the native strangers there, among the thing, the prairie growing. To know this gave us more the care to let the grass keep at its growing and let the streams keep at their flowing. We knew the land would not be ours, that no one has the awful powers to claim this vast and common nesting, much to own the life that he gave him birth, much less to rape his mother earth and ask her for a mother's blessing, and ever live in peace with her, and dying, come to rest with her. Oh, we would ride and we would listen and hear the message on the wind. The grass in morning dew would glisten until the sun would dry and blend the grass to ground and air to sky. We'd know by bird or insect flying, by their mood or by their song, if time and moon were right or wrong for fitting works and rounds to weather. The critter coats and leaves the trees might flash some signal with a breeze, or wind and sun on flower or feather. We knew our way from dawn to dawn, and far beyond, and far beyond. It was the old ones with me riding out through the fog fall of the dawn, and they'd pressed me to deciding if we were right or we were wrong. For time came for men, we were punching cattle, for men who knew not spur nor saddle, who came with locusts in their purse to scatter loose upon the earth. The savage had not found this prairie, till some who hired us came this way to make the grasses pay and pay, for some raw greed, nor wise nor wary, regard for grass could satisfy. The old ones wept, and so did I. Do you remember we'd come jogging to town with jingle in our jeans? And in that wild night, we'd be bogging up our hats in last month's dreams. It seemed the night could barely hold us with all those spirits to embolden us. While horses waiting on 3 legs, we'd drain the night down to the dregs. But just before, beyond redemption, we'd gather back to what we were. We'd leave the money left us there and head our horses for the wagon. But in the ruckus, in the whirl, we were the wolves of all the world. The grass was growing scarce for grazing, would soon turn sod or soon turn bare. The money men set to replacing the good and true in spirit there. We could not say, there was no knowing how ill the future winds were blowing. Some cowboys even shunned the ways of cowboys of the trailherd days. But where's the gift not turned for plunder, forgot that we are what we do and not the stuff we lay claim to? I dreamed the spell that we're under. I throw in with a cowboy band and go out horseback through the land. So mornings now I go riding through the pastures of my solemn plain, and leather creaking and the quieting would sound, would trot and trot again. I'll live in time with horse falling. I'll listen well and hear the calling. The earth, my mother, bids to me, though I will still ride wild and free. And as I ride out in the morning, before the bird, before the dawn, I'll be this poem. I'll be this song. My heart will beat the world warning. Those horsemen will ride all with me, and we'll be good, and we'll be free. Thank you.
That's a long one to memorize. This one was published last spring in the Willow Creek Journal. That's put out by the Creed Art Council. And this one is Finding Gold. We moved from camp to camp, we did, while Harry dug for gold. He thought grass greeners somewheres else. At 40, I was old. I'd faded like my old house dress, as plain as gravel rocks, as grim as them bare hillsides and diggins marked with pox. One day I seen a yellow rose, next to a mining shack, a blooming second week July. The color took me back to the days when I was young, and Harry, he was too. We knew that rose in Illinois. I recognized the hue. It was the Harrison's yellow rose, a fragile-looking bloom. The leaves was small and delicate. The fragrance filled a room. My spirits lifted as I sniffed the sweetness of that flower. The color matched the sunshine of the early morning hour. A woman who lived in the shack cracked open her front door. I imagined she was wondering, now what has she come for? I wasn't one who borrowed or who begged things, either one. I don't know what got into me, but this is what I'd done. I asked the woman, could I have a cutting or a shoot? The woman cut a stem for me. Hard ground won't yield a root. I started it in water till small roots began to grow, and then I potted it in peat moss dug from the bog below. When we moved, we took it with us to the next camp and the next. Harry, tired of packing it, I knew that he was vexed. But he knew what it meant to me and didn't argue none. That rose brought color to my life. That is what it done. I patterned this after the way my grandmother spoke. She had very little education, and her mother actually had gone with her father to the gold fields from camp to camp, so that's where it all came from.
Okay, I think we're going to have enough time for an open mic, and we're going to have an intermission after Malcolm's minstreling and poeting. Well, let's give our attention now to Loring Wirbel as he tells us about Poetry West and shares some poems. Loring, please.
A couple words from your sponsors. In just a few minutes, Susan will be telling you about the exciting performance side of the street. Poetry West deals more with working together on improving our page poetry, and it is now exceeded its 30th anniversary. And I must say that during the course of most of Poetry West's years, its center of gravity, its fulcrum, and its constant supporter has been Lois Hayna, and I want to acknowledge what a key role she has played in all this. We have a variety of activities, including monthly workshops and chapbooks and journals I wanted to tell you about. We have a series every first Saturday of the month, usually at Colorado College. Julianza, our vice president and workshop coordinator, has done a fabulous job at bringing in people who are downright awe-inspiring, like Hassan Ali and Veronica Patterson. So we hope you can come by. We're always looking for new members. We irregularly publish, usually on a biannual basis, a special journal, 11th Muse, and this year we are looking for some very special opportunities to make this a celebration of Southern Colorado, and you'll hear more about that soon. We also publish a judged chapbook contest. Last year, our two winners were Susan Peiffer here and Kyle Laws from Pueblo. We have a few books and journals out on the table and some more information, flyers you can take. And on top of that, helping in a few minutes, Susan will be telling you about here in the performance side of what is going on in town. So no one can ever say you're not inundated with more poetry events than you'll ever be able to handle. Now, I just wanted to share with you a couple of pieces. I've been working, as some of you may know, on a series about the inundation with social media in modern events and how much that hurts or hinders our understanding of what's going on. The series is called Tweets Gone Bad, and the purpose of putting together these poems was not immediately clear when I got it started. It was one of those emergent intelligence, hive intelligence type of things that slowly began to reveal itself. I've read a couple of the poems at a series of open mics, but I've never read the first one and the most recent one, so I thought I'd share those two with you. I will say that each poem begins with a series of hashtags, and hashtags in Twitter begin with a hash or a pound sign, and I'm going to indicate that by going pow. And so the first poem here, the first in the series, was for the bones of Richard III, discovered under a Leicester overnight car park, and since then the cities of Leicester and York have fought over who gets Richard's bones, because really that damn Shakespeare, he kept saying all those horrible things about Richard III. He didn't really kill his nephews. He was really a nice guy. So resurgent hashtag House of York begins with an epigram from Jonathan Goldstein, who said, "He's not really the murderous sort, unlike the Lord, who gets downright smitey at times." Pow, my kingdom for a horse. Pow, not complaining. Pow, anyone but San Francisco. Pow, House of York. Pow, Jenny Lewis, Ray Lewis. Pow, just saying. Pow, Plantagenet. Pow, Ravens Nevermore. Pow, Never Forever. Pow, Never-Ending War of Roses. 4 months before Twin Towers became the two princes on our own shore, give the Yanks a Bosworth of their own. I am dowsing aimless hammocks and circling Harrogate, Leeds, Leicester, Fylingdales, random Yorkshire moors, telling no one of the whispers that Lancastrian radomes sneer at dawn. Lindis tightens the lavender and pink scarf, pocked with runes from Armley Mills against a wet May katabatic breeze. She tells me Otley was a Celtic redoubt, then form fit for Hadrian, now designed for the legion of the new men with Yanks. But I am not here to apologize for Hunter's stones. I am here to depose a king. 16 months earlier, a millennium begun by some sloppy counting methods, I was flying to Stansted, sleeping in Canary Wharf, dreaming of docklands in a Dog Island previous life, sampling wasabi mash, and averting the overweening attractive force of a special breed of supermagnet, the type left abandoned under Texas fields in the epochs all dreams of Higgs abandoned the Yanks, and declared the next 1,000 years a reign under the House of Cern and Berners-Lee. This same attractive force was observed in a botched organ transplant, crouching in the chapel staircase in the Tower of London, hissing, "Drop all those yuppie trinkets, hold the adolescent skulls. The two in the tower become two towers. But first, you will be visited by Harrogate and Otley. First, you will dream of Shah Massoud in Atlanta. Look upon your works, Plantagenet, and despair." The hissing only stopped when my random walk took me to South Quay, an IRA signature designed to hold skulls at bay. And now the third skull, made manifest in Leicester Car Park, reveals for we game fans the common chord of a Ninth Ward outage in the new floods of Florence and a Mercedes-Benz Superdome 8 years later. Richard III, bony and real and stripped of all pretense, is Sam Coke deep in a new end zone, while the safety dance sidestep is the necessary play for hacked power grids, for wars of roses that never even reach the penultimate flower storm. My skullcap headache would scarcely imply that I am the next Richard III, itching to leave the 24/7 car park as the last of the fans exit the stadium gates, nor does it equate the crimes of each year's Ray Lewis with the last Yorkshire king. It is merely the dress rehearsal for all future princes of Denmark. And now this one is brand new. Tweets Gone Bad number 8, Lockdown. Again, beginning with an epigraph. Terry Gross from Fresh Air said, "The ethics of live tweeting are still being hammered out." Pow! Ain't no love in the heart of the city. Stay safe, people. Pow! Just admit that it's a boat. Pow! Barrenback Bay. Pow! Devout is disease. Pow! No smell of gunpowder. Pow! When I rise from the dead, the world shall tremble. Pow! Timur the lame might have made a better name. His covert running mission at the edge of an established East Cambridge perimeter might be a mere Dunkin' Donuts reconnaissance, but still important to some. An eclair and an iced coffee drive home the point that Tamerlane was Uzbek, not Kyrgyz, not Chechen, not Dagestani, certainly not Rus. The 96 hours of pan-zoom bird's eye have convinced him that sentience in infinite regression now resides in each fire hydrant, while wisdom is everywhere absent. The 9 hours of lockdown, accompanied by sonata of commentator drone and chirpy tweet song, remind him old journalism was placed on life support in Watertown, autopsied at MIT Media Lab. The next scouting sally need not be Boylston, maybe just Newberry Comics, Harvard Square, Back Bay. It really doesn't matter. The only remaining bird songs of the Mesozoic are the 100-voice choral rounds of tweet as lie. Good for the omnipresent eye, he says. 3 cheers for the ones who protect us. The undying image in tattooed cortical map is not the one where a middleweight angel finds redemption through pipe bomb and pressure cooker. Rather, it is the image of fast flight, the one fleeing a relationship, an organization, or a city emptied of two-legged faults and neglecting to leave operating instructions for the next tenant. Was that why both satchels aimed for the legs? The Pistorius Marathon? Nothing left to do but run? Sibling aberration is a funhouse mirror. Devout is disease. Belief is disease. The prow of a beached Evinrude inboard-outboard should remind us of that. But the disturbing fact, often forgotten regarding the first one to bear the name Tamerlane, is that he was running west, beyond the Black Sea lockdown boundaries, approaching a personal best and a Mediterranean to rule, were it not for that bacterial hitchhiker parasiting the prairie dogs of the Uzbek steppe. The rodents as shrapnel are flung by trebuchet over the walls of Kaffa, unleashing the most notorious of plagues. Tamerlane's name is all but erased. The tweets diminish, and then they fall silent. Thank you.
Thank you, Loring. Now we'd like to invite Susan Peiffer up to tell us about Here, Here, and what's going on in that genre of poetry in our town.
Good afternoon. My name is Susan Peiffer. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I'm here to tell you about the Here Here poetry community that is evolving in Colorado Springs. Here Here was founded in 2011 by Luke Cecil and a group of friends, and we have developed and grown and recently found a home at Smoke Brush at Marmalade. We meet every Friday, every third Friday for an open mic and workshop, and every fourth Friday for an open mic and slam. Our open mic list has about 20 people on it, and it's limited. We pull in about 80 to 100 people for our open mic at Marmalade. It's a really wonderful evening. It starts with locally loved or nationally known artists, and the open mic is very intimate and casual and comfortable, and you're more than welcome to join us for that. And a poetry slam is the art of competitive poetry, a word circus where the performer is encouraged to focus on what they're saying as well as how they are saying it. We just this past Wednesday selected the first team from Colorado Springs to be going to a national competition in 10 years. So Colorado Springs is sending 6 people to Boston in August to represent our city on an arts level, which is really pretty spectacular, I think. We've got a good team going. So Poetry Slam is the art of competitive poetry where there are 5 people drawn from the audience at random. If you've never been to a Poetry Slam before, you make a perfect judge. The premise being that all of us come into a room with a valid opinion about art. And as we consume art, we are able to process it and feed an opinion back. And so anybody can come into a Poetry Slam and have opinion on, yeah, that was good, or it wasn't so good. I'll share a piece with you. It's come up in conversation a lot lately that, and Jim, you said something that, what do we have but our genetics and our culture and our family and where we've come from? And people have brought that up to me lately, and I think that's very curious. As an adopted person, I don't have my genetics. I have the culture of my family. And do I get to own the story of my biological ethnicity, or do I not get to own that story? Very curious conversations. This is called My Name Is. My name is Puerto Rican Lily, hunting honeysuckle breeze, clawing to soar at grazing moon. I do not know what I look like. My name is African sorrow, scratching scars sewn into neck, flocking to feed, mate, dance, these things foreign to my corpse. I cannot recognize my own reflection. My name is American bird. When I look in the mirror, I see exotic gardens festooned with holy flowers. I see first century Jew. My name is the breath you exhaled before dying, rising to bend a meandering wish, Stephanie, Mariana, Louisa May, Alcott, whispering syllables that nest in family throats, bear the weight of stories strangers wrote. My name is a whistling matron, faint gloss sound of tinkling over foggy bogs, lost in the heather, thistles, clother, a mother calling her child that will never be her own. I do not know what I look like. Thank you. I think this is, thank you, Price, for putting this together, and for Sue and for everybody who had a part in participating in this. I had such a pleasure listening to the flow and the music of the different languages. I have been participating in National Poetry Month, writing a poem a day, and this is one that's come out of that. I think that with our acknowledgement of the diversity and the universality of poetry, I think we all have a responsibility at the same time to do what we can with our work for that. This is called Kneading Rice. There are 650 grains of rice in 1 tablespoon. 1 cup is 10,000 grains of rice. 1 10-pound bag is 250,000 grains. It is Saturday and all sushi is 20% off. Rice is free. I sit across the table from my fat friend and we make cynical observations from the cushions of our first world chairs. I remember a joke from 1983 to 1985 where Ethiopia barely stayed alive from the most widespread famine to flatten the country in a century. What's this? An Ethiopian swallowing a piece of rice. I pulled on the fleshy wings of my neck, made a stick figure choking, and did not know enough to be horrified by my own ignorant violence. In 6 months in northern Ethiopia in 1983, over 400,000 died, but only half ate hunger. Famine came early, struck hard, and extended far because humans were neither human nor right, and the violation of human rights stains America's teeth with the sour tinge of tainted fruit because we refused to remember where sacred Eden first birthed and embraced death. I was 10 and watched Live Aid on my best friend's satellite TV, inducing me and millions in the West to open our purses, be thankful at our tables, and urge our governments to participate in efforts of relief. The media's attention span was brief, and 56,000 tons of food rotted at port, while upwards of 22 million people died. I never learned about genocide in grade school. Ethiopia was as insignificant as a grain of rice, or no rice at all. 2 million grains of rice is 8 10-pound bags. 1 10-pound bag is 250,000 grains of rice. 1 cup is 10,000 grains of rice. There are 650 grains of rice in 1 tablespoon. I name them each: Sarah, Megan, Emily, James, Mahagdi, Eli, Julio, Devin, Matthew, Natalie, Zach, Daisy, Thorfinn, Hamid, Robert, Joseph, Carl, Monica, Jesse, Susan. It is Sunday, and there is a woman raising my consciousness in church. She is using rice. I am 1 grain of rice. My nieces and nephews are 1 grain of rice. My Jesse. 3 years ago, my pastor preached 6 sermons on Darfur. He was sickened and shocked to hear it's still going on. It's still going on. Sometimes it is all I can do to get my rice in my hands and work it. Silken oblong pebbles, tiny stones bleed powdered residue into the rivers of my palms. I scatter a handful and fall to my knees, prostrate, yet genuflecting to a God who allows us to allow hunger to exist. Genocide is not confined to history. I know a girl born in a town called something like Milligan Schmilligan, endowed with Armenian beauty and family strength, that survived World War I slaughter 1915 to 1918. 150,000 mutilated, 6 bags of rice. Naked flowers left alive but molding in the runny ravines of gutters, ditches, and roads. It takes 24 bags of rice, 1 grain per person, 1 grain per story, per flicker, per flame, to represent the Jews exterminated by Hitler, a single grain himself in World War II. The total number of people killed: homosexual, sympathizer, mental and physically ill, other inferiors, would require 40 bags to represent. 48 bags. The number of native North Americans slaughtered from 1492 to 1900. I met an unquenchable spirit, escaped to the States, refued in private college in Minnesota, who at 16 smuggled her brother on a school bus amidst sniper fire out of Croatia with its rolling hills, and I knew from my youth in the endless innocent mountains of Pennsylvania. In 1996, she was seeing her family for the first time after 8 war-torn years, and I didn't know enough to be overwhelmed. 1 10-pound bag, 6 cups. The number of full bodies recovered after massacre by Slobodan Milosevic. 1 single grain of rice in Bosnia, 1992 to 1985. 3 bags, 5 cups. The reported 600,000 more lost, found without complete bodies in the conflict. My friend knows so many of their names. Genocide is not anonymous. 1 grain of rice. 1 grain of rice. Nelson Mandela, Cesar Chavez, Jesus of Nazareth, Dorothy Day, Mother Teresa, me, you, us, and no one hungry anymore. Thank you.
Wow, Susan, that was wonderful to hear, and makes me think of Uncle Walt Whitman, the famous third line, every atom in me as well belongs to you. We're all in this together. That's a Canadian comedian, Saturday nights, PBS, Red Green said that. We're all in this together, but it's so true. Makes me think of those, I don't know who said it, we're all hungry animals haunting a coast. And poetry feeds us and helps us through these times. I was going to do just a few little lines lifted from Native American, and we don't have to have the flute, we can just do it and then we got music coming right here. I can see it just building. So some things I found, this is an anonymous, or an author unknown, voices that beautify the earth. It says, voices above, voices of thunder, speak from the dark of clouds, voice below, grasshopper voice, speak from the green of plants, so may the earth be beautiful. There's some lines I lifted from others. I'm just going to forego those. You can look them up online on Native American poetry, but here's some beautiful lines lifted from Lakota Chief in 1887, Chief Yellow Lark, Lakota Sioux Chief. Just some short lines I've lifted. Let me walk in beauty and make my eyes behold the red and purple sunset. Hands respect the things you have made. Ears sharp to hear your voice. Let me learn the lessons you have hidden in every leaf and rock and grain of rice. The last words I added for Susan. And without further ado, we want to just move in. We're running a little bit over on time, but Malcolm is going to take as much time as he wants. We've only got a few sign-ups for the open mic, but after Malcolm serenades us with poetry and music, we're going to have a brief intermission. Malcolm, please, we need a minstrel here.
You've all been sitting down a long time, so I'll just sing one song. This is by John Prine. This song has a chorus, and I'm going to teach it to you now. That's it. You do that? Come on. Some humans ain't human. Some people ain't kind. You open up their hearts, here's what you'll find. A few frozen pizzas, some ice cubes with hair, broken popsicle. You don't want to go there. Some humans ain't human, though they walk like we do. They live and they breathe just to turn the old screw. They'll screw you when you're sleeping. They'll try to screw you blind. Some humans ain't human. Some people ain't kind. You might go to church and sit down in a pew. Those humans who ain't human, they could be sitting right next to you. They'll talk about your family. They'll talk about your clothes. When they don't know their own ass from their own elbow. Jealousy and stupidity don't lead to harmony. Did you ever notice just when you're feeling good, there's always a pigeon that'll come and shit on your hood? Or you're feeling your freedom. Yeah, you got the world off your back. Then some cowboy from Texas starts his own war in Iraq. Some humans ain't human. Some people ain't kind. They'll lie through their teeth with their head up on behind. You open up their hearts, and here's what you'll find. Some humans ain't human. Some people ain't kind.
We're going to start with, let's see, Elizabeth. Is it Brandis? Elizabeth, please come right up. Just do one quick poem, and we'll go as far as we can. Thank you.
This poem is in honor of Earth Day. A goddess of nature speaks. Hear me now. I speak for those without tongues. They are alive. They are within us. They share life just as we do. A disregard for rocks and stones is as much for tears as forgotten grandmothers and grandfathers. Look into the eyes of those who speak not. Receive their love and give it back. The oceans, the rivers, the trees, all carry wisdom even deeper than ours. Ask for their blessings and grace. Nature cries out to us all, the breath of winds, the tumultuous seas, oceans filled with picnics of fish families. Hear their voices calling to you. Use us not as trash, they say. Sacred beings we are. We provide altars for your gift offerings. Our hearts look not like yours, but they beat just the same. They beat for love. They express who we are 1,000 times, pulsations filling the universe. Earth's shadows, quench us not. We grow forward in anticipation of the sun. Daylight is our reward, and so it is yours too. Hallowed be thy name of nature. Bless us all as one. Let all unthinking prejudice against nature dissolve into the air which carries life to man. We are your brothers and sisters. We are harbingers of freedom. Release us from your unwise clutches. Let us speak our wisdom. Hear us, lords of the earth planet. We are all one.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Our next reader is Janet Rose Lyons. Janet Rose Lyons, please.
Because we're running out of time, I'll just read part of a poem. This is called Colorado Cold. You have to understand, I moved here not too long ago from Alabama. So this is Colorado Cold. I hate the Colorado cold, but wait. Perhaps it's just because I'm getting old. The body will no longer hold the warmth of summer sun or autumn gold. Colorado winter, will you allow a senior discount? Your bitter cold burrows deep within my bone. Colorado, howling wind, will you listen now? Will you speak to me in a more gentle tone? Will you declare the air around my little cottage a special quiet zone? I hate the Colorado cold, but wait, I guess it's just because I'm growing old.
We have the space until 4:30, and we've got about 2 minutes left. So we have time for one more poet. I think we have, or do we have time? Shall we close shop, or how does it? We have one more poem. Let's have it. Okay, let's have it. Joseph Uphoff. And then, by the way, come back next week. We got Poetry West. They have this space for 2 hours. There'll be a bigger open mic, I'm sure. All right. Dr. Joseph Uphoff, please.
Thank you, Price. The long discerning search and consequential seizure. Observing the truth required that an origin be retained through some process of inscrutable assimilation by the speculation of authentic pretense. This was merely play acting when considered from the floor of the glowering stage. Deep within the gestures of conversation resided a language ringing with experimentation, by which captors were seeking the answer to compromise in the profound hope that exoneration might provide some windfall profit through a trove of facts garnered after the misfortunes of ancient science, the personal tragedy and enigmatic occult lives from recent times. It was better to expect that an expert was standing alone without the regard lending protection for the sake of a legitimate purpose. The pretty view had a regulation appearance, stipulated by a demand for precision response, in the presence of a public criticism intolerant of discrepancies, whereby procedure might exhibit liberal standards, regularly incriminated as logical implications of pervasive effects. The consolation of the testing was a belief that quietude signified a lack of adjustment through the registered alibi. It was understood that judgment had dispatched controversy to leave protagonists shaken with the ferocity of conscience. Yet the difficult subject was simply a chill nip amidst inclement weather. It was the wrong day for precipitation, though tears were streaming down the cheek of those who had been following the story and the legend that ridiculed specific and preposterous assertions contextualized through hypocrisy. For spring, the significance related to winter blasts already receding to stabilize memory into anecdotal recollection. This could persist as folk tales, eventually becoming the patterns with which to impress the spirits of playing children. Adjacent to the eternal past was the eternal action delayed through hesitant decisions. The remedy to the accusation of indecisive introspection was to relax with rain streaming from the shoulders while the fresh buds drank the moisture of benevolent providence. A contrary weakness inclined the will to present itself out of the weather in the barn with the chickens and the camels, the ornamentation of the peacocks, and the long supple trunks of large gray elephants, this being the fate of membership. Thank you.
We're overtime, I guess, but wasn't it fun? I've always wanted to go overtime. Okay, 17 syllables to close it. The love that soars out from you returns on the arms of the singing wind.